Good morning, Lenape, and welcome back to another episode of Lenape Live. I'm your host, Aniyah Richardson.
And I'm once again your host, Dan Baker. It's Friday, November 18th, and we're back at it again with an all-new episode.
Make sure to stick around because this is Lenape Live. With the second marking period now in full swing, it's time for a clean slate in preparation for our minds and our stomachs. Thanksgiving is next week already.
Time sure really does fly by. Halloween felt like it was just here, and now Thanksgiving is in a week. I don't even want to think how fast Christmas will come. But still, I can't wait to dig in some of my favorite seasonal foods. Do you have any favorites, Naya?
As a matter of fact, I do. Baked mac and cheese happens to be an all-time favorite.
Really? I'm more of a stuffing guy myself, but I have to say mac and cheese is always a classic. Moving on from food before I start drooling on live TV, let's move on to our Lenape's weekly announcements.
Ever heard of the Buddies Club? The next meeting will be this Monday, November 28th in A105, right after school.
Auditions for the Lenape musical, The Little Mermaid, are coming up real soon. There will be a mandatory informational meeting on Monday, November 22nd after school. Auditions will be the week of November 28th and will include a vocal audition and a monologue. See Mr. Moore or Miss Post for more information.
Lenape's fall show, A Christmas Carol, is this week. The current show times are the 18th at 7 p.m. and the 19th at 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. And as always, check your Outlook emails for more announcements.
Speaking of A Christmas Carol, we have a lovely trailer to show off a sneak peek of the holiday performance.
What a wonderful trailer from an even more wonderful production. Now moving into some more political news, we have a segment all about the mock trial and even an interview.
Yes, Ms. Falver, I'm the library media specialist here at Lenape High School and absolutely a voting enthusiast. Yes, we hold something different every year in like the presidential election, when we had the governor's race, sometimes we'll get voting machines in here. This year we did kind of a mock mail-in ballot election. Okay, so we're featuring the 3rd congressional race in New Jersey, which is a highly competitive race between incumbent Andy Kim and his Republican challenger, Bob Healy. That's our House of Representatives person, so it's a highly important race. Well, I think it's very, very important to let students know and have the opportunity to have their voice be heard, so they are familiar with learning about the candidates, finding out about different elections, and realize, hey, let's do this once we turn 18 as well. And it's awesome when I see senior classes in here who actually are 18 and registered to vote, and they feel like they've had this experience and they're familiar with researching candidates and figuring out how to pick their candidate for offices. Okay, so the Lenape election, we had a little over 1,100 students vote, and Andy Kim won with 870 votes, which was 78.5% of the voters. Bob Healy came in with 21.5%. Now, what's interesting is it was the same result as what happened in the quote-unquote real election. but by much lesser margins. So Andy Kim ended up winning with 55% of the vote, and Bob Healy had 44%, which is expected. And I think that really comes down to a couple of different things. First of all, Mount Laurel went more heavily with Kim over Healy, so it was the location. But what has been shown nationwide, there's been a lot of analysis over the past, 6 days, that young voters were turning out much more for Democratic candidates. So I think it was a combination of our students being from Mount Laurel, as well as the younger population and young voters 18 to 30 went out in force for Democratic candidates overall in this election nationwide. So I think we were a good indication of what was happening in the country.
Don't get me wrong, cold weather can be great sometimes, but this past week, the cold has been kind of annoying.
No, I totally agree with you, Dan. Winter is sadly on its way already.
What is even more sad is that because of the short week next week, lookout is going to be next week. Even though I'm no meteorologist, I suggest keeping warm with highs in the 40s and lows near the 20s next week. I'm just cold thinking about it. Now, speaking of the cold, The Christmas Carol is an awesome play with tons of great actors, but it would never be possible without the stage crew. Let's take a look about what that's all about.
Have you ever wondered what really goes on behind Lenape's fall plays and musicals? Well, it's a little something called Stage Crew, and we're here to tell you all about it.
This year I moved sets during the play, so essentially in scene changes and things like blackouts, we will move something from like a couch to a table onto the set.
I personally am on the side of moving stuff in between scenes. When they need to change up the set, I'm the guy that goes in and moves stuff.
My job in stage crew is to pretty much set up the lights however it's supposed to be for the show. I can click on these lights and adjust them however they need to be.
My job is stage manager. I run around like a chicken with no head and yell at people and tell them what to do.
I like being with my friends. I just enjoy it. And I'm into theater.
Probably yelling at people, telling them what to do. And I also like tech a lot. Tech week is the week of or the week before the show that we just run through the show every day till it's extremely pitch black outside.
By far the atmosphere of theater in general, it's just so much fun hanging out with friends, being a part of a large-scale production. There's just so much meaning behind it, and you can see your work in real time.
I like being with my friends. It's also very chaotic, and it's like a very social club. It gives more to the theater.
And with that, thank you so much for coming to this week's episode of Lenape Live.
Remember to keep up with us on Twitter at Len Digital Media and Instagram at Lenape Digital Media, and stop by ND25 to see how you can be involved with our show.
We'll be back next week, right before Thanksgiving break, on Wednesday, November 23rd, with an all-new episode. Until then, have a great weekend, Lenape.